And we will not stop there, because you see, we are fighting for far more than this tax. We are preparing the ground for a different kind of society.
Seattle and Portland are the litmus test to push this nonsense nationwide.
It is time for the silent majority to start speaking out.
We have the opportunity to say no. No more to unreasonable activism that stands up for Seattle, that stands up for the region, stands up for the state, and stands up for the United States of America.
If you live in Seattle and you're feeling abandoned by your local leaders, or you're watching from outside Seattle thinking, I hope that does not happen to my city. Today is a new day. In my 20 years in Seattle, I have never seen the degree that people are connecting their votes to their consequences that I am seeing right now. In this video, we're going to unpack that, and we're going to talk about what you can do to help. You can start right now by clicking subscribe and hitting that like button. This is Restorative Capitalism. Let's get started. Last week, the Seattle City Council voted to defund 3% of the SPD budget, eliminating 100 officer positions and cutting programs that focus on helping the most vulnerable. This also resulted in the resignation of Chief Carmen Best.
When you know it's time to go, you know it's time to go. After serving this department and this community for almost 3 decades, I can honestly say I have no regrets.
Leading up to the budget vote, a group of protesters that refer to themselves as the Everyday March incubated a new mechanism to advocate for policies. That mechanism is to pay a visit to the private homes of almost everybody on the city council and Police Chief Carmen Best and advocate their demands by bullhorns, among other mechanisms. They proved that any policy you want to advance, visiting the private homes of the city council is now a socially accepted tool to do that. Was this the reason why Chief Carmen Best resigned?
This is not about the money, and it certainly isn't about, the demonstrators. I mean, be real, I have a lot thicker skin than that. It really is about the overarching lack of respect for the officers, the men and women who work so hard day in and day out. And honestly, the idea of after we worked so incredibly hard to make sure that our department was diverse, that reflects the community that we serve, to just turn that all on a dime and hack it off without having a plan in place to move forward.
Wait, so did I hear that right? Did the council not even have a plan? Did they not even talk to Chief Best?
I will admit, it's why it has been so mystifying to watch the city council plow ahead without ever consulting her, talking to her, or listening to her pleas to be thoughtful.
Okay, so what is driving the council's decisions? Do you know, Chief Best?
I really can't answer that, to be honest with you. The best people to answer, what the council is up to is the council. I mean, I would not be as arrogant or presumptuous as to put words in their mouth. I just really don't know.
Well, what does Sawant have to say about this?
The reason that wealthy communities are safe is not because they have more policing. Actually, it's the exact opposite. They have very little policing. If you look at the police presence and you distribute it across income-based neighborhoods, you will see that the maximum police presence is in the poorest neighborhoods. So the reason the wealthier neighborhoods are safer is not because of more police.
Sawant went on to say that public schools, public housing, and other investments are where she believes that the money should go. That's an area where there might be some room for some debate and some public discourse on what the right public policy is. Sawant also has opinions about violence, but I'll note that she has not had a late-night visit to her private home recently related to the discussions about defunding the police.
Seattle, since the George Floyd protest movement broke out with the first protest on May 30th, where has the violence come from? The violence has come from the Democratic establishment-led police department. The violence has not come from the protest movement. It has come from the tear gas, the blast balls, the flashbang grenades, the rubber bullets.
Oh, sorry about that guy screaming in the background. He's just screaming out in front of my house. That just happens in Seattle. So just ignore that, please. He's one of the people the navigation team that was just defunded would be helping. By the way, did you know that the phrase defund the police, and ACAB and 1213 and all this other nonsense didn't even exist in the mainstream before George Floyd was murdered? Take a look at the search terms on Google, for example, and it's virtually non-existent before that. It was just a few Marxists sitting around fantasizing about revolution, and now it's everywhere. This is important because maintaining basic public safety is not going to be easy. What seems like something that's fringe and out there a couple of months ago is now directly impacting the police operations in Seattle. Every 911 call from this point forward could be delayed as a direct consequence of the votes from the Seattle City Council. Next year's budget is up next. There is a huge push to defund the police by 50% or more. If you think that's not a good idea, the city needs to hear from you. There's a petition sponsored by the Seattle Police Officers Guild at stopdefunding.com. You can and should contact your Seattle City Council representative and let them know what you think. Also, please, just stop with any of these messages encouraging people to leave Seattle. Seattle voters need to learn to deal with the consequences of their votes, but that connection is happening now more than ever. If you're outside of Seattle, you need to let that process work and know that a new era for Seattle is forming. Leave a comment below and let me know the areas that you're interested in me covering. I have a ton of content, but I really only have time to pull together a video about once a week. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Hit the like button if you haven't already. This is Restorative Capitalism. Thank you for watching.